Okay, well, there has been some disquiet between household workers and their employers in regards to this vaccine, which some feel if they don't take it, they might lose their jobs. And I think that has been the case in certain situations. Joining us for this discussion, Shirley Price, President of the Jamaica Household Workers Union, and Attorney at Law, Kadria Folks. Morning, ladies. Good morning to you. Good to see you. Miss Shirley, how you do? Good to see you this morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Miss Shirley, I'm going to start with you because I know your union represents how many household workers? Little over 6,000 or so?
Well, we represent domestic workers right across the board.
Okay.
Which is 58 to 100 thousand domestic workers, but 6,900 are registered.
Wow. Registered, right. Okay. And what is the feedback you're getting from the folks within your union, registered or not, about what's going on with the take-up of this vaccine?
You know, we're not getting much negative feedback, you know, but I'm not sure where this is coming from. I heard it was online somewhere. But after hearing this and we go into the group and put it in there and start a discussion, some domestic workers are saying that their employers are saying that they must take the vaccine. They didn't say that they're gonna send them home, but they're saying that they must take the vaccine. Some saying to them that you know, it's a personal choice, but all the union can do is encourage them to go out and take it, because personally, I think the benefit of taking the vaccine outweigh the COVID benefit. So, you know, I'm not sure if you can die. That's my feeling. That if you can die taking the vaccine, but I know you can die with the COVID. But they should go out and take the vaccine, because they're protecting themselves. They're protecting their others, whether employers and who they travel with and the boss or over. They're just protecting others and protecting their jobs also.
Correct.
Kadria?
Yes.
I want to pop in here because I actually saw on social media someone say, I said to my domestic helper, you have to be, you know, vaccinated. The help, it's your choice. Helper said, well, I choose not to. And they said, well, you have to go because I have comorbidities and I don't want you to bring this into me. Is there any kind of legal recourse? Because for the most part, I feel like the domestic situation is informal. For the most part, I might be wrong.
It's an employment relationship like any other, and so protective labor legislation applies. But also the contract of employment is fundamentally a contract. And so general principles of contract law will apply. But first of all, I want to reference the fact that the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom gives the domestic worker the right to say, I don't want to take this vaccine. I don't think it is safe for me or for whatever reason. But that same charter allows the householder who employs the domestic worker to say, listen, this is my private space. The Constitution protects it gives me the right to protect my family and my private home. And so what you'll have is a clash there, because both persons, the respective parties, equally have legitimate rights. So how do you resolve this? It comes down to the contract. Now, to say that the domestic worker, to insist that the domestic worker takes the vaccine, right, must be considered in light of their equally legitimate right to say, I don't want to take the vaccine. So what you find is that you will have circumstances arising in the contract that the parties could not have reasonably foreseen. And because of the impasse, you're gonna have to say, no, well, you know, perhaps this contract cannot continue. And rightfully so, because in the law of contract, you have what is called frustration of contract. And that applies where something occurs which the parties did not necessarily anticipate, which makes the contract fundamentally different from what they had initially agreed to. And as such, no party is at fault. What the law is saying, it just can't work out. And if it can't work out, what you just agree to disagree, and the domestic worker goes one way and the employer goes the other way, provided that before separating, the employer has to satisfy any outstanding obligations to the worker. So any rights that would have accrued under the labor law, the employer has to satisfy those.
Okay. Kadria?
Absolutely.
Okay. So implicit in what you're saying about a contract is that there has to be mutual agreement, no?
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Right. So
Mutual separation too.
right,
Mutual
but
separation.
so if the employer says, back to your point of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the employer to say, okay, I respect your decision not to take it, but you cannot stay here because I have children or I have,
Yes.
and the household worker or the domestic worker, whether it be the gardener or the whatever it is, says, I don't go nowhere because you can't send me home because this is my choice and I'm going down to ministry. What happens then?
Well, I can't speak for the ministry, unfortunately.
But you can speak to the law, no?
Yeah, I can speak to the law, but I mean, there are different ways of dealing with things. Perhaps the ministry would intervene to conciliate the issue. But in terms of the law, as I said before, the contract you cannot force someone. The domestic space is a peculiar workplace. It is somebody's personal space. Even Convention 189 of the International Labour Organization, which sets out standards for decent work for domestic worker, is replete with references to the special circumstances of domestic work. What is so special about domestic work? You're in people's private space, perhaps interfacing with the things that they love and care about most.
The most.
So you have to balance that. Their right to protect, they feel the need to protect because the science is saying the vaccine doesn't mean you can't get COVID, but it means that you probably won't die. And that is a very relevant consideration when you're dealing with your children or perhaps persons who are clinically vulnerable or in your household.
Right. So let's just make it clear. You are way less likely to get COVID if you're fully vaccinated, and you are way less likely to have severe symptoms and die. We want to get, even as we have the discussion, we want to put the context out there because this is why folks are encouraging folks who work with them, who are in their personal space, to get the vaccine. It's because they want them to be protected. They want to know that they themselves are protected. And if in my case, you have a child who cannot be vaccinated because the child is not of age, you want to know that the risk posed to that child is very low. Ms. Shirley, I see a lot of folks, folks saying, you know, let the household workers be, let the domestic workers be. If you are fully vaccinated and you have on your mask, what is the problem with them in your house? You may as well just put on your mask and stop being. I mean, I've seen people called slave masters. The discussion in social media about this is incredible. Are you getting feedback, Ms. Shirley, that people are willing to lose their jobs over this? Because I know people who are looking for people to work in their homes and can't find anybody because their one condition is vaccination. And there's so many people in the space who are pushing against it.
Yes, people call us asking for domestic worker and say they want domestic workers that are fully vaccinated. And we found that for them because, as I said before, like, it's an attitude right across Jamaica, and it's not just with domestic workers.
Right.
Most persons across Jamaica, they are not taking up the job. And it is because of fear, and it is because of lack of education. So the government have work to do.
Yeah.
They need to network more.
Yeah.
Us as NGO, civil society organization, they need to work with us.
Correct.
They need to work with the churches.
Correct.
They need to go in the community, have more town hall. The people need to be educated because they're not. And that is the problem. There are so much things out there. Right?
But Ms. Shirley,
and saying so much, yes.
you also have another issue, which is that some of the household workers are saying that their employers don't want to get the vaccine.
Oh, yes. I got that when we were in the group having the discussion. When domestic worker was adamant that she's gonna walk because she has been working with this family, for many years, and she said she's gonna walk because she's fully vaccinated, and the employers say they're not interested. They will not do it because of their faith, their Christian faith.
Right.
So so I told her, well, if you're not comfortable,
leave it alone
and have a conversation.
Kendra.
Have a
conversation.
I want to add, because this has been coming up not just with the domestic workers, it's been coming up with work in general. Now we're hearing that the cruise ship, people are told that we can't force you to be vaccinated, but if you're not vaccinated, you will not be engaging with the passengers when they come off the cruise ship. And it goes on and on and on. We know what the laws are now. Through the Disaster Risk Management Act or any other type of law, is there a way in which the government can say, well, legally, we are going to give employers the right to say, if you don't have it, you can't come to work?
Yes, it could be done, arguably in the public interest, because this is a public health issue.
Right.
And at all times, the rights of the collective are supervailing to those of the personal right, the individual right. So it is arguably it could be done, but right now, what the government is using is moral suasion, and so it is kind of incoherent for other persons to be mandating persons taking up the job. Look at what the government is doing. The government has the power to do a lot of things. And what they're really trying to do is just to sell it to you and say, if you don't do it, then that will happen. A very soft kind of approach.
Right.
And with COVID, I think that's what COVID requires. It's not so much the law, but soft skills. You know, we're all in this together. It's humans versus COVID. So it shouldn't be about one individual against the other, whatever the context. And that is what sometimes, unfortunately, persons fail to appreciate.
Ms. Shirley, I want to bring you in here because we find that in some instances they say, well, the protocol, even the government opened up entertainment. We got a list of things. This is the protocol, Ms. Shirley, for doing entertainment. This is the protocol for churches. This is the protocol for work. Is there a protocol for domestic workers?
The domestic worker comes under the same protocol as any other workers.
No, I know, but I'm saying in terms of have they worked out well when you go, because when you go to the home, this is what you do. You wear your mask, you sanitize.
Yes. Well, we educate our members, and educate domestic workers on a whole to make sure they practice social distance, they wear their mask, they sanitize. And the problem we had, though, is where domestic workers complain of employers forcing them to use strong chemicals. For example, the bleach. They're saying, don't dilute the bleach when you're cleaning the surfaces. Oh. And that is wrong because what happened now, is that they're gonna be affecting their health. It will affect their health.
Miss Shirley, you see why I tell you say you need a protocol? That's why I raise it, Because because I feel like unless collectively we come up with an agreement, every household go and come up with something. That if we don't say, So we have to come up with an agreement that to protect you in your household and to protect the workers, let us all agree that these are the best ways in which we can. If I'm cleaning this room, then the family is not in this room. If you're going to observe social distance, because you could be clean, you know what I'm saying? So something have to go work out to
Somebody
protect your people.
actually just sent me a message that maybe one of the protocols could be if you don't get vaccinated, then you are tested regularly,
right? So
that you can your status
is very expensive.
Well, Miss Shirley, but that's a good question. Maybe that's where the protocols come in. But if you want to keep your job, unfortunately, the onus would probably fall on you if you opt out of the vaccine, and your employer needs to know that you are it's safe for you to be in the home. It may fall on you. Kadria, what you say? I don't know.
Possibly, Simone, but I wanted to speak to the fact of the use of chemicals. Again, the peculiar nature of the domestic relationship or the relationship between the domestic worker and the household in which they work. Because in a normal workplace, labor inspectors, for instance, can go in and ensure that certain requirements are being observed. But because of the special nature of the domestic household, that cannot happen. And so there is heavy reliance on a lot of self-regulation for persons to comply and do the right thing. But certainly in respect of occupational safety and health, and if you look at how far-reaching that can be, if we have legislation in that respect, then we can argue a case to say, listen, when it comes to safety and health, it's not like a regular labor law where you don't pay minimum wage and nobody dies. When it comes to occupational safety and health, if you have persons who are not properly educated on the correct use of chemicals, for instance, and they mix chemicals, for instance, to clean the bathroom, then someone could die. And therein you can make the case to say labor inspection can go into the domestic household, but of course you'd have to set out carefully the parameters for that.
Yeah.
All right.
It,
Okay.
it need
Ladies,
a
we
paper.
have to.
It need a document.
Yeah, we have to leave it there. This is an
And
ongoing
the next
issue,
thing,
but
Simone, before you go, one thing I'm asking employers, if they could also give domestic worker the time
to go and get the
go
vaccine.
vaccinated.
Yes, or carry them.
Because if they wanted to take their time, their own day to go, and then they pull it from their pay.
Very
Cannot
important. Very important point, Miss Shirley.
It needs
very,
some protocol.
very important point.
Need some protocol.
Employers,
work together.
yes.
We have to work together for the betterment of the country.
Absolutely.
And for you as an individual, us as Jamaican. Work
Absolutely. Thank you
Nice.
so much for that,
Nice.
Miss
Thanks,
Shirley.
Miss
You
Shirley.
cannot be asking
Has been
the
made.
person who works in your home to go and get vaccinated and it happened on a weekday and you pulled it out of them. It cannot be do, folks. Cannot work. It cannot work.
Need some protocol.
of
Shirley
course.
Price, president of the Jamaica Household Workers Union and attorney at law, Kedra, folks. You see, it need talking, but it also need the paper to say this is what's going to
I
happen.
want to do one thing before you break.
All
It's
right.
not going to take long. I spoke with someone at an agency 2 days ago who said she had convinced someone to go and get the shot. And when she called to find out how things were going, the young lady said to her, I'm not going to take the shot again because I've done some research and I've heard that things will stick to you, metal will stick to you if you take the vaccine. So I've asked Clive to give me a spoon. And I feel, for True Produce and the other small producers, that we need to do a segment on some of these myths and talk them through because people really believe them. This is a spoon. I'm fully vaxxed. Look, I don't have a magnet into my body. Nowhere. Harris, you're fully vaxxed. Can I see if this sticks to you?
And I tell you.
I don't have no 5G.
No, it's true, guys. And what Simone says, really, I know we have to break, Clive, but I think part of the discussion, and Ms. Shirley said it, is people believe,
We don't.
and we have to acknowledge that they believe and respect the fact that
Right.
they believe.
And show
and
them.
share and show them.
Exactly.
Don't rubbish them. Don't
Exactly.
tell them,
Don't
say,
judge them.
don't judge them. Don't say, oh, no, idiot. That's not it. If that's the information they have, and we just have to carry the information.
Discourse and debate.
After the break, boy, non-traditional schools face 7th grade struggle.
Doesn't work.
I think all the schools. So stay with us. We're going to be talking about that one.
My 5G don't work.